This was the secret. And he said, have a definitive purpose, a clearly defined dream, and have a burning desire for its achievement. A magnificent obsession. An obsession. A burning desire for its achievement. Hi, this is Kevin Trudeau in the studio. I'm very excited to be putting together this CD on 25 secrets for wealth creation. For years and years, people have always asked me to do some type of material, and educational material or informational material, sharing the secrets of wealth creation. And I've always been a little reluctant of putting that information together. And there's a reason for that. For years, I've built businesses since I was 15 years old. And the companies that I've started and the companies I've been associated with have done now over or close to $3 billion US dollars in business worldwide. It's quite an impressive feat, I think, and I say that humbly. But the reason I bring this up, it's very, very important. I have a lot of friends who are in the, we'll call it the tape selling business. And these guys that I know and friends of mine and people that I know that maybe aren't friends, but I still know them, they put together a lot of information on how to make money, how to develop wealth, how to create financial freedom. And the scary thing about this, and I see these people all over the world, is the vast majority of these people, when they're making the tapes or CDs on how to get rich, the guy is making this CD on how to get rich. And at the time he's making the CD, he ain't rich. He's actually flat broke. He's probably massively in debt and he has no money. And the reason he's producing this series on how to get rich is so he can sell it so he can make money. And I hope you understand what I'm saying here. In other words, I'm not putting together this CD on secrets or 25 secrets of wealth creation to make money. I've already made that money. The secrets I'm sharing with you today are not mine, but they're universally workable principles that have been used by the most successful people in the world for virtually, in many cases, thousands of years. These are principles that I did not invent or create. These are principles that I learned and that I applied starting when I was 15 years old and made millions of dollars. You know, a lot of people know the story that I made several million dollars before I was 18. And my books have sold now in the tens of millions of copies around the world. And my companies have done, as I mentioned, billions of dollars in sales around the world. And that comes from a fella who has no education. You know, I virtually flunked out of high school. I never went to college. I had no family connections. Never had any financing or venture capital. I started all my companies virtually on a shoestring, directly out of pocket. And I applied principles that worked to create money. Now, I do want to just say one thing. This is not a CD or informational product on success, because money and success are two very different things. Success has really nothing to do with money. Success is waking up in the morning and being in a state of bliss, joy, excitement, and happiness beyond belief. That's really the ultimate success. If you live your life being incredibly happy and blissful, you're successful. You don't need money to do that. This particular CD is not about success in that respect. It's just about making money and creating wealth. And that's really what it's about. It's not going to give you the specifics. It's going to give you the principles that are universally applicable to everyone's situation. And so these principles that you can learn, in many cases, you may find them to be simplistic. Please don't believe they're simplistic. The greatest truths in life are, in many cases, the simplest. These principles work. They're proven. They're time-tested. They're being delivered to you from somebody who has personally applied them to create huge amounts of wealth for myself. And from my observations of my friends who have applied these, they've used these principles to create wealth. The most successful people, not some of, all of the most successful people on planet Earth have used these principles to create wealth. And there is a huge difference between what wealthy people do and think compared to what broke people do and think. Now, if you're listening to this, there's a good chance that you're not wealthy. There's a good chance that, and with all due respect to you listening, but there's a good chance that you don't have any money, that you may be very stressed out over your finances. You may be heavily in debt, and you may wonder if there is a way out. And I can just tell you this. No matter how bad your situation looks right now financially, there categorically is a way out, and it can be faster than you could ever imagine. But you have to be open to these particular principles. So let me start with the principles. The first principle is what we call the teachability index. If a person is to achieve success, financial success, wealth, monetary financial freedom, you have to be coachable. You have to be teachable. Every successful person is an excellent student. They are very teachable. They listen. They observe, and they learn. Broke people, on the other hand, know everything. And I see that all the time in my life. People come up to me who have no money, and they want to learn some success principles, but they do all the talking. They don't even ask me any questions. And it's amazing to me because when I start to give them one bit of information, you can just see they shut it off. They don't even want to listen. And in many cases, they tell me that I'm wrong. And I'm looking at the guy thinking, okay, you're flat broke. You don't have two nickels to rub together, and you're and you came here for some information, but immediately you're saying that what I'm telling you is wrong. And so they're not teachable. They'll stay broke the rest of their life until they wake up and become teachable. So here's the teachability index. The first question is, how teachable are you? Now, the teachability index, and here's the test I'm going to give you right now, is there's two variables in the teachability index which will determine how teachable you are. And if you're not teachable right now, the good news is you can change that and become teachable. And I have to tell you that throughout my life, I have been both very teachable and very unteachable. So I've shifted on this teachability index, and most of the people that I know that are super wealthy, guys who have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, they shift as well. And we have to keep slapping ourselves sometimes and go back and go, we need to be teachable if we're going to continue to achieve super financial success or success in any area. Here's the two variables. The first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your willingness to learn this information about wealth creation? What is your willingness to learn? On a scale of 1 to 10. Now, if you're listening to this, you actually spent money to buy this stuff. There's a pretty good chance that you have a pretty high willingness to learn. There's a pretty good chance. Now, you're not being forced to listen to this CD or this information, but what is your willingness to learn this information? On a scale of 1 to 10, most of you will probably be pretty high on that, hopefully a 10. You should have a high willingness to learn. The second variable is really where everything changes. This is where the rubber meets the road. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, what is your willingness to accept change? What is your willingness to accept change? You see, you may be very willing to learn the information, but you may be very unwilling to change the way you think or the things you do. Because changing, you don't want to change. Well, the fact of the matter is, a guy said to me years ago, which I thought was one of the most profound things I ever heard. He says, if you want things in your life to change, you're going to have to change things in your life. Think about that. If you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to have what you always got. You have to understand that if you're at a certain point in your life and you're not happy, the methods that you've been employing, the things that you have been doing, the actions that you have been doing, the way that you have been thinking are wrong. They ain't working. That's why you're at a certain point in your life. You have to change some things if you want to change the result. That's the fact. And this is one of the hardest things that people grasp. I remember I took a typing class one time, and I typed around 30, 45 words a minute with 2 fingers. I was pretty good, so I took a typing class because I wanted to get faster. And the typing teacher said you have to use all your fingers. Well, when I started using all my fingers, I went from 35 to 40 words a minute. I went down to 20 words a minute, and I thought, this ain't working. My hands aren't designed for this. I don't want to type with my whole hands, all the fingers of my hands. I want to type with 2 fingers. I didn't want to change. And the teacher said, look, if you type with 2 fingers, you'll never get any better than 45 words a minute. If you want to get 80, 90 words a minute and really be a good proficient typist, which can be advantageous in your life, you're going to have to change, which means you may have to take a few steps backwards and relearn some things. So willingness to accept change. This is how teachable you are. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if your willingness to learn is a 10, but your willingness to accept change is a 0, 0 times 10 is 0. You have a 0 teachability index. Shut the tape off, throw it away, and stay a loser your whole life. Sorry. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I have a very limited amount of time, and I'm just going to tell you exactly what it is. You have to have a high teachability index. So you have to have a high willingness to accept change. Because as I go through these particular principles, and as you start learning some things, you're going to understand that some of these things are radically different than what you're currently doing. And to change what you're doing and what you're thinking and how you're thinking may be a little bit uncomfortable. But know that the result will absolutely 100% be what you want. So have a high teachability index, have a high willingness to learn, and a high willingness to accept change. If you're 10 on both, that means you're 100% teachable. You'll learn this so fast, so quickly, so easily. It'll be effortless, and you'll see spectacular results in a very short period of time. So the first secret is successful people in wealth creation have a very high teachability index. Next, you have to understand what's called a training balance scale. There's a training balance scale, and this is very, very important that most people don't understand, but people who have super wealth do understand. The training balance scale has 2 sides. The first side of the training balance scale is what's called motivation, or thinking, or thoughts, dreams. It's the why you do things. On the other side of the training balance scale is the technique, the skill, the action steps, the doing. So one side is thoughts, the other side is actually actions in real life. One side is dreams, visions, goals, motivation, attitude, enthusiasm. It's what goes on in your head. It's what you think and how you feel. That's one side of the training balance scale. The other side is actually what you do. It's the skills, the techniques, the action step. It's the work. It's the physical action. Now, what happens in most situations is people either overdose on one of these. They don't have a balance. Most people focus on the techniques of wealth creation. And that's fine, but the fact is, that's not the most important. The training balance scale starts with the attitude, the thoughts, the dream, the why. That's 90% of wealth creation. It's not the technique. It's not the how. It's not the specific knowing what to do. This is a huge, huge misunderstanding that broke people have. They say, well, I can't start a business because I don't know exactly how to do it. Did you know that 99%, as a matter of fact, probably 100% of the people that start businesses have no idea how to do it? They don't know the how. They don't care. They just know they're going to do it. That's the difference. That is the magical difference. When you see broke people, then the reason they never do anything is they're always afraid because they don't think they know how to. They don't have the skill set. They don't have the education. They don't have the technical expertise. They don't know the techniques. They don't know what to do or where to start, so they don't. The successful people, they also don't know the techniques or the skills or any of that stuff, but they don't care. They just know that if I just start, it'll all work out. Because their motivation, their dream, their why, their thought process is so powerful that they understand that the how will come. This is very, very important. The training balance scale, the secret here, what you have to understand is that there are 2 sides to the training balance scale, and that the thought process is much more important than the how. But it also lets you know that there are 2 sides and you should be working on both. So the secret here is to know that there is a balance between the how and the why, but to also know that the why, the thoughts, are much, much, much more important than the how, and really not to worry about the how. So if you understand that concept, that's really the secret here. Next, You have to understand that there are 4 phases that a person goes through when they learn something. You're learning wealth creation for the first time, probably. Maybe you have a job, maybe you're unemployed, but probably you're maxed out on your credit cards, you're really heavily in debt, and you really may not see a way out. So you've got into some habits, really failure habits. So you have to understand that there are 4 phases you're going to go through as you learn this material. And successful people understand this because they then understand where they're headed. So here are the 4 phases. The first phase is what's called unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence means you don't know that you don't know. Before you got this book, before you got this information, maybe you didn't really know of some of the bad things that you have done that adversely affect you financially. And maybe you didn't even know that there was a potential way out. So you were unconsciously incompetent. Once you learned about the fact that there are some things that you've done, and maybe there's some things that have happened where you've been taken advantage of financially to put you in a really bad position, almost make you a slave to debt. Once you become aware of the problem and aware that there are some solutions, you got to phase 2. Phase 2 is called conscious incompetence. Now you know you don't know. So now you know that you've been incompetent, you know that you've made mistakes, you know that you've screwed up, you know that you've done some things wrong, and you know that there's a reason why your situation is where it is. As you go through this CD and the books and so forth, and you learn the thought processes and some of the secrets and some of the techniques, and you learn some of this stuff, you get to level 3. Level 3 is called conscious competence. Conscious competence is where you're thinking through the process. This is where you actually have to think through doing the things. It is a conscious thought process. You have to make conscious effort to apply these principles. This is very important. You have to make conscious effort to apply these principles. That's what conscious competence is. You have to make conscious effort. And if you don't make conscious effort, you won't apply the principles, you won't get the results. But level 3 is a very important level because level 3 is the development of habits. Once you start doing consciously applying these techniques and skills, once you consciously do it over a period of time, guess what happens? You get to level 4. And this is where super successful people are. They're at a level where it happens automatically. Level 4 is unconscious competence. It happens automatically. We do things instantaneously, automatically, without thinking because it's ingrained in us. It's a habit. It's an automatic. We just do these things out of habit because we've done them so long that it's just automatic. And in many cases, successful people don't even know what they're doing anymore. They just do it and they get this incredible financial result. They make money. They achieve happiness, they get what they want because they're applying these principles at an unconscious level. It just happens automatically. They're not thinking about applying them anymore. That's not going to happen to you overnight, but I want you to know that's where you're headed. And that's why wealth creation is a process in the beginning, just like learning how to type. In the beginning, you're thinking through that whole thing. But after a while, if you watch a professional typist, they're not thinking at all. It just happens automatically. It just automatically occurs. So that's where we're going to be headed toward. Okay, next. The next secret of wealth creation is something that's very important. It's called having a definitive or definite purpose, a definite aim, a specific goal, or a very clearly defined dream. Now, this is something that successful people all do, and unsuccessful people don't do. And let me tell you the difference. I have a friend, very dear friend, who's flat broke. And him and I talk a lot, and I'm always amazed because he always sits down with me for lunch or coffee to ask some advice. And when I give it to him, he just completely disagrees with it. I crack up because it's like the guy's flat broke. And he asks me for advice, and every time I give him even a bit of advice, he just completely disagrees and starts lecturing me on success, which is hysterical. But here's the difference. His philosophy, and the philosophy of most broke people, is, I use the shotgun approach, Kevin. My philosophy is you do a whole bunch of things at the same time. You need to throw enough stuff against the wall, because if you throw enough stuff against the wall, some of it's bound to stick. Because all you need is really just one hit. So I do a lot of things at the same time. I have a lot of irons in the fire because I'm not sure which one's going to work or not. So I use the shotgun approach. Okay, let me explain. If you think the same way, I can tell you categorically, you will stay broke your whole life. Successful people do not think that way. Successful people have a definitive, specific, very focused main objective. And that's what they put all their attention in. Some people say, well, no, that's not true. I've seen successful people. Look at Donald Trump. Look at this guy. Look at that guy. They are diversified. They're diversified after they've made a few $1 billion. See, you're looking at the guy today and trying to emulate how he thinks and what his actions are today. Wrong. Go back in that person's history and say, what did they do the first 5 years of their career? Oh, they didn't diversify at all. They had insane focus. They had a magnificent obsession with one definitive objective. That's what this secret is. The secret is focusing on something very clear and very specific and very narrow. It's having a definitive purpose, a very clearly defined and specific dream, a definitive aim. That's really key. If you don't know which way you're going to go or what business you want to do or what specific way to create money, and you're trying 10 things at the same time, you will stay broke. Diversification only happens later in life. And really, it's a misnomer. When you see what these people are doing, they're not diversifying at all. They're actually turning businesses over to other people who have 100% focus on that. And the successful person who looks like he's diversified is really focusing 95% of his attention on a new project. It's not spread out. That is a complete misnomer. So the secret is having a definitive aim, a definitive, clearly defined, specific purpose, a dream, and being specific and focused on that. It's what you want. The dream, the purpose is what your main objective is, what your main goal is, what you want specifically. It's got to be clearly defined. It's got to be very specific and very narrow in scope. So you can put all your focus on that, and that's the only way you'll achieve it. That's how you create forward progress. Next secret. Next secret follows up on that first one. Next secret was actually first verbalized by Napoleon Hill. Now, Napoleon Hill, some people are familiar with his book, Think and Grow Rich. That was not his definitive work. His definitive work was actually published 10 years earlier called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, which was taken off the market because it really outlined the secrets of financial success. And the super wealthy at the time freaked out because they did not want these secrets revealed. It was pulled off the market. And then 10 years later, Think and Grow Rich was put out, which was a watered down version with all the key elements really taken out. Very interesting. But Napoleon Hill at the turn of the century was commissioned or hired by Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world at the time. This is right around 1900. And Napoleon Hill was given a 20-year job by Andrew Carnegie, where Carnegie said, I'm going to teach you the secrets of financial success, of how to make money. And I'm going to introduce you to the wealthiest people on planet Earth. You're going to observe them, interview them, and look at them for 20 years. And you're going to put the definitive work together of what are the true common denominators that create financial success. Universally applied principles that worked forever in history and will work forever forward in history. Napoleon Hill did that, and that's when he published The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, much to the chagrin of all the super wealthy he interviewed, and they freaked out and it came off the market. And then later, as I mentioned, Think and Grow Rich came out. But Napoleon Hill said the number one most important common denominator of financial success, and if you did nothing else except this, you would make money beyond your wildest dreams. This was the secret. And he said, have a definitive purpose, a clearly defined dream, which we just talked about, and have a burning desire for its achievement. A magnificent obsession. An obsession. A burning desire for its achievement. And when people apply those two principles, a definitive aim with a burning desire for its achievement, that it must happen, where they focus their attention on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Napoleon Hill said when people applied that simple principle just with their mind, that's why the title of his next book was Think and Grow Rich. Not do and grow rich. Not act and grow rich. Not work and grow rich, but actually think and grow rich. He said when a person applied that simply in his mind, money came so fast and in such large quantities, it frightened him. That's what Napoleon Hill said. He said, but he stopped being frightened because most people looked at that as being so simplistic they didn't apply it, which is pretty interesting. So a burning desire is really this key. Having a burning desire for something's achievement that you have a very specific goal on. Very important to wealth creation. Next secret. There's a very popular book out called The Secret. And The Secret is a great book. I highly recommend you read it. And in The Secret, it describes something called the law of attraction. So this particular principle, this is one of the secrets here, wealth creation, is to use the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction was not first verbalized in the book, The Secret, although they do a very nice job in that book. The law of attraction was actually first verbalized in mainstream by Napoleon Hill in The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. And then in 1967, Earl Nightingale published an LP, a vinyl record album, called The Strangest Secret. And in The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale told everyone, it became one of the best-selling self-improvement or self-empowering audios of all time. Earl Nightingale said, the strangest secret is you become what you think about. You become what you think about. And I thought to myself, you become what you think about. And I remember first hearing that, and I thought, well, that can't be true, because if it was, I'd be a girl. but it is true. You become what you think about. You become what your primary dominant thoughts are. If it's something you're afraid of, you get that. If it's something you want, you get that. And this is very interesting because thoughts are, in fact, things. The secret, this principle, is use the law of attraction. That's the point here. Use the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says whatever you focus on and think about in your mind, you would attract into your life. Now, here's the scary part. The scary part is if you really, really, really want something, which is having a burning desire for its achievement. If you really, 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 really want something, you'll get it. However, if you really, really, really don't want something to happen, you'll get that too. So someone says, oh my God, I'm so scared now, my thoughts. Don't worry. The very simple way to determine what you're thinking is not even wonder or worry about what you're thinking. You have what's called an internal emotional guidance system. The good news is you don't have to worry about your thoughts. All you have to do is feel what you're feeling. And here's the bottom line. There's really only two types of thoughts. There's a good thought that make you feel good and thoughts that make you feel bad. So there's really only two types of feelings. There's good feelings and bad feelings. Every day, if you're feeling really good, don't worry about your thoughts. You're thinking good. You're on track. You're focusing on what you want and you'll get it. The better you feel, the more your thoughts are focusing on what you want. If you're not feeling good, if you're feeling angry, depressed, irritated, frustrated, that means you're focusing on what you don't want and you're attracting that into your life. So your emotional guidance system will just tell you to rechange your thoughts. So anytime you're not feeling good, just say, wait a minute, that means I'm not thinking properly, and then focus on your goal, focus on your objective. And if you think, well, I'm focusing on my objective, but I'm still feeling crappy, then what's happening is you're actually focusing on your objective, but you're feeling that you'll never get it. And your dream is a little bit out of reach where you don't believe it. So lower that objective to something that you can get in alignment with and feel good about. The point is, use the law of attraction. You become what you think about. That's the key here. Next, leaders are always readers. This is a very important key. If you want to be successful, you must read books. Read books. I have a dear friend, Charlie Tremendous Jones, and he is one of the most wonderful, motivational, and inspirational people I've ever met. And he owns a company that promotes books and sells books all around the United States and the world. And Charlie has been sharing his love of books and reading for well over 50 years. And he says, 5 years from now, the person you become will be based on the people you meet and the books you read. Books change people. Reading is a lost art today. If you want to be incredibly successful, you must read. This is something that broke people don't understand. I'm over a buddy's house in Santa Barbara, right on the beach, gorgeous home. Guy's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I walk in and he's got books, I mean books everywhere. And I'm looking at his books and I go, wow, you have a great book selection. And he says, well, it's not a collection. He says, I've read them. And every time I see him, he's reading something. We've traveled to, various places around the world together. And whether we're on a plane or whether we're sitting someplace or on a boat, he's got a book with him all the time. He's always reading. Leaders are always readers. If you want to be successful, you must read. Now, let me tell you some books you should read. Because people say, well, what should I read? I'll give you the specific ones you should read right now. Number 1, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. Another great book is called Ask and It Is Given. Ask and It Is Given. Another book you must read, The Magic of Thinking Big. The Magic of Thinking Big. Next, The Magic of Believing. Next, See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. Next, a book that's out of print, but you can find it. It's called The Go-Getter. The Go-Getter. Next, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Next, The Secret. Next, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. But these are the books you should be reading. And also Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But read The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. Much more powerful than Think and Grow Rich, because Think and Grow Rich has most of the key elements taken out. So those are the books you need to be reading. And rereading books over and over again. I've read these books probably 20 times each. I have these books. These are my basic books that I'm constantly rereading. Now, if I do this and my friends do this who have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank and in some cases billions, it doesn't make sense that you do this. Read books. Next key, listen to tapes. Well, today it's CDs or recordings on MP3 players, such as what you're listening to right now. Listen to information on CD, tape, or some type of audio. Getting audio cassettes or getting some type of audio material about success, motivation, attitude, and listening to it on a regular basis is vitally important. The reason is, remember the training balance scale? You need to constantly work on your thinking, your thoughts, your motivation. Reading books and listening to audios is a very important key to feed your mind with positive information and keep you thinking in the right way. We're bombarded with negative information every day. We're bombarded with people trying to, consciously or subconsciously make us stay broke. And we're learning and being bombarded about negative influences where we're really having a hard time breaking out of this negative thought pattern. You've developed such a pattern of thinking. The only way to get rid of that pattern and change it is not to change the way you're thinking or stop the way you've been thinking. It's to replace the way you've been thinking with something else. So listening to tapes or audios will allow you to replace your current pattern of thoughts with new patterns of thoughts. That's why reading books on a regular basis, I mean every day, and listening to audios every day. If you're in a car, it's easy to do. Listening to audios every day and reading books every day, right now for you, hey, I still do it. But for you, it's an I do all this stuff automatically anyways. But I still know that I need to continue to train my mind and keep sharp. Hey, you look at a guy who has a great physical body, right? I have Patrick, my trainer and number one guy who travels with me and takes care of me. He has a phenomenal body. Well, guess what? He's in the gym every day. Now somebody thinks, well, he doesn't need it. He has a phenomenal body. No, that's why he has a phenomenal body, and that's why he keeps his phenomenal body. Because he's in the gym every day. Someone says, well, you just do this stuff automatically, KT, with your mind and you know these success. Yeah, and the reason I do it automatically is I train it and continue to train it every day. You need it more than anybody because you haven't even learned this yet. You're just starting. But if you want to get to unconscious competence, you must do this on a regular basis. Next secret. Successful people always are attending seminars. Improving by education. So attending a seminar is different than reading a book and different than listening to an audio. Attending a seminar gets you in a room with like-minded people Getting in a room with like-minded people and having an experiential event. It's not just the knowledge from the speaker. It's not just the techniques you're learning at the seminar. It's not just the motivation and dream building that you get and the information and so forth. But it's the experience that you have that changes you. Seminars, functions of this nature, whether it's a 3-hour seminar or a weekend seminar that you would attend, are vital. Successful people are constantly continuing education in a format with other people that are like-minded because of the experience that they have and how that experience changes and refocuses the way they think so that they're thinking right, more positive, and their thoughts are more in line and they get closer to unconscious competence. That's the key. So attend as many seminars as you can. Next principle is saving 10%. Saving 10%. There's a great book called The Richest Man in the World, and it talks about a principle that successful people do, and that's they save. Successful people save. You've heard the phrase, live within your means. It's a lie. Someone said, what do you mean? Live within your means? No. You'll never achieve wealth living within your means. If you want to achieve wealth, you must live below your means. Do you understand that? Some people say, well, I make $5,000 a month. And guess what? You spend $5,000 a month. I'm living within my means. Well, you'll never achieve wealth. You need to live below your means. That's very hard because whenever anyone has an extra $5, they're spending it on something. Live below your means. I still live below my means. So live below your means. And the key is starting from right immediately, when you get your check, if it's a paycheck or whatever income, you take 10%, you write yourself a check, pay yourself first, and take 10% of what you earn and put it away. Put it in a savings account, put it in an investment brokerage account, take the cash and throw it in a drawer. I don't care. Save 10% minimum. The principle is pay yourself first and save a minimum of 10%. And somebody says, well, I don't know if I can. Let me tell you, if you pay yourself first the 10% before you pay any other bill, I guarantee you every other bill will get paid. Don't worry about it. This is a very important success principle that successful people do. Next, get out of debt. You're learning in the books, Debt Cures, they don't want you to know about, through the material, how to reduce your debt load, reduce your interest load, reduce the fees that they're scamming and screwing you on, and reducing your payments. The key is reducing your debt load and reducing the interest you're paying, which is just ridiculous. But you must get out of debt and reduce debt. Okay? Now, there's a difference between debt that's crippling and using credit to your advantage. Here we're talking about the crippling debt. So really focus. And this could be your first definitive purpose, is to reduce and get out of debt and have a burning desire for its achievement. Get out of debt. Okay? That's very, very key. Next, successful people have what's called good priority management. Now, this is not time management. You can't manage time. You can only manage your priorities. So good, successful people manage priorities very effectively. I've used a priority management system, which I recommend to you. It's called the Priority Manager. It's called the Priority Manager. I've been using this for probably 20 years since they first came out with this. Every senior executive in any company I have around the world has used this program, and every single one without exception was amazed at how much it reduced stress, reduced confusion, anxiety, improved dramatically the ability to get things done in less time, and dramatically improved focus. It's called the Priority Manager, but you have to manage your priorities and get complete control of your time. That's very, very vital if you want to achieve wealth creation. Next, associate with winners. Associate with winners. Successful people associate with like-minded people. Remember this, 5 years from now, your income will be the average of your 5 best friends. And somebody's probably thinking about their 5 best friends right now, and they go, my God, I better get some new friends. And guess what? You're right. I'm sorry, but you're right. If you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to have what you always have. The thoughts of the people around you will rub off. If your five best friends are all broke, guess what? You need 5 new best friends. You need to change the association because the thought process rubs off, the energy rubs off. Successful people always understood that they must associate with and be in the presence of successful people. Aristotle Onassis, one of the richest men in the world, said, if I lost all my money, what I would do is I would find a place where rich people congregated and I would just physically be there because that energy would rub off on me. And I would be given opportunities as if by magic. And this is a guy who was a shipping magnate, married Jackie Kennedy. This is the point. When you look at successful people beyond the average success, I'm not talking a guy who makes a couple $100,000 a year. Some of you may be thinking that's incredible success, and certainly it's good. But when you start getting into the stratosphere levels of money, the people are almost like Jedi Knights. I mean, they think in this esoteric, mystic, spiritual, energetic way. And broke people don't understand that. I mean, that's the bizarre thing. So you have to understand there is an energy level that the successful people know exists, and they know that's how the universe works. They don't share that with the average guy because the average guy would think that it's lunacy. But that's what we talk about when we're together. I mean, I'm on my buddy's yacht in Sydney, Australia, and there's 3 of us there, collectively worth $2-3 billion. And we're talking about energy and be able to, moving and creating reality with a thought. I mean, that's what our discussion is. It's not about the technical aspects of running a business. Because we're creating money as we're sitting on this yacht, smoking a cigar in the hot tub, having sushi and caviar and drinking champagne. And we're creating wealth just by sitting, creating it in our head. And we know we are. And we play games where we can use our mind. And all of a sudden the phone will ring and somebody will say, I'm going to create this. They start thinking about it. And then the phone rings and go, ha, it just happened. Boy, it took 10 minutes. I mean, and some of you are listening to this going, is this guy crazy? I'm telling you, that's why this is called the 25 Secrets of Wealth Creation. That's why they pulled the book, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons, off the market, because it shared this stuff. And nobody at the time, the super wealthy, did not want the masses to know the true secrets. And that's why Napoleon Hill said these techniques are so powerful that when people applied them, it frightened him because the money came so fast and in such large quantities. So associate with winners. Always be around and hang around winners. Next, work. This is a misunderstood principle, but successful people actually do in fact work. But the question is, what exactly is work? You can work hard, you can work smart. People who are successful understand that the work is really the thought process, not the physical doing. The physical doing is there and does come into play. Successful people many times put in 10 or 12 hours a day, quote, working. But the work is different than what you think is work. To them, they never call it work. Donald Trump says it best. Do what you love. That's what he kept on saying. Do what you love. And every successful person, they do not work. They may put in 12 hours into something, but they're not working because they're doing what they love. Unsuccessful people are thinking that they have to pay the price for success and go through the misery of work to create. No, if you're miserable doing the activity, you're on the wrong track. You have to be blissfully happy doing the activity. Now you're on the right track. So the key here is not to do work, is to understand work. So the key principle here is, yeah, you may have to do some activities, but do activities and quote work and put in the time, but you must make sure you're lined up with you're doing something that you love so it isn't work. Then you'll put in huge amounts of time doing it and create spectacular results. That's the secret here. Next, develop a pleasing personality. With very rare exception here, successful people have a pleasing personality. Some people say, well, wait a minute, I've saw this guy on TV, or I heard about this guy or this woman in business, and they're just evil. Okay, go back in time to when they started. That's the key. In the beginning, they had pleasing personalities. They were likable. That's a very important. They may have changed over the years, But in the beginning, the key success principle is to develop a pleasing personality. How do you develop a pleasing personality? Well, the best way is to either take the course and or read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Highly encourage that. It's very powerful. But develop a pleasing personality and become likable. Next, you must develop communication skills. Successful people all, with rare exception, are good communicators of their thoughts and ideas. They are persuasive, they negotiate well, and they have, quote, good sales skills. Now, I'm not saying be a salesman, but communication skills, being able to sell your ideas to another person, communicate your thoughts effectively, win people over to your way of thinking, being able to negotiate something so you can put a deal together. Being a good communicator is a huge advantage in business, and successful people should focus on becoming better. Reading the books I mentioned, attending seminars, working in this area, very, very effective at developing better communication skills. Next, improve your credit score. Certainly if you want to develop wealth, there's a very important thing we'll be talking about called other people's money and using other people's money and using credit. In order to get there, you do need to improve your credit score. So take some time using the principles and techniques that we've described in the books that you've purchased to improve your credit score. That gives you a big advantage on wealth creation. Next, reduce taxes. I'm actually going to be putting together a book on how to do this. This changes so rapidly because the 15,000 rules and regulations in the tax code in America, which are completely insane. The bottom line is the wealthiest people pay no taxes, which is crazy, and the guy who's just starting out pays the majority of taxes in terms of as a percentage of their income. You need to reduce taxes to give you more cash flow to create wealth. And so you need to learn the techniques, and there'll be books that I put out and other books and the seminars that you can take, but you need to focus on reducing the amount of taxes you pay. Very important. Next secret is reduce the amount of insurance premiums you pay. If you just look at how much money you pay in insurance, health insurance, medical insurance, life insurance, this insurance, that insurance, car insurance, if you look at how much money you spend, you should be able to reduce that by 2/3. That gives you additional cash every year to develop wealth. So this is an easy area to reduce and focus on that. I'll have some more books on this, but focus on reducing your insurance premiums. Next, use corporations and trusts for tax efficiency, protecting your assets, and increasing your ability to get lines of credit. In the books, we talk about starting corporations, how to start a corporation, how to use that corporation to reduce taxes legally as the tax code is designed, how to protect your assets legally and properly, and how to get access to more credit because of having a corporation. Very important if you want to develop wealth, because you can get up to $1 million and more available credit if you have a corporation that you couldn't get if you just ran and started developing wealth as a certain person. So using corporations for these reasons is very, very important. Every super wealthy person uses corporations to reduce tax, protect assets, as well as have more access to credit lines. You must do this if you want to create wealth. Next secret. OPM, Other People's Money, made famous by W. Clement Stone, one of the richest men in the world. Another book, by the way, which was not on my original list, I do recommend, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by W. Clement Stone, one of the richest men in the world. I met W. Clement Stone years ago, and I'll never forget the meeting at his home in Northbrook, Illinois. Walked in, had slick black hair, pencil mustache, bow tie, billionaire. I was in awe, young man. He smoked cigars in his office, in his home. He opened up the cigar humidor, shoved it in my face, and said, "Do you smoke?" I said, "No." He said, "Would you like to start?" And I did, actually. W. Clement Stone is the cause of my enjoyment now of cigars. But he coined a phrase called OPM, Other People's Money. If you want to be successful, you have to utilize OPM, Other People's Money. You can't do it all on your own. No successful person runs companies, businesses, and creates wealth with their own capital and their own cash. They utilize credit, They utilize OPM, other people's money. So learn how to use other people's money to create wealth. Next, and lastly, you must increase your income if you want to create wealth. If you look at wealth, there's actually a couple areas. On the thought process, you have to get your thinking right using the law of attraction, having a specific definitive purpose, using focus, using thoughts to create. That's really important. On the other side, there's some of the skills and techniques I'm sharing. But if you look at it another way, you have to reduce your expenses and increase your income. Those are the two basic elements to start developing wealth. Reduce expenditures and increase income. The easiest way to reduce expenditures are through tax savings and insurance savings. You can reduce expenditures dramatically right there. That's the easiest, fastest way to reduce your outflow. Okay? And reduce your debt. So debt, which we talked about in the book, reducing your payments, interest, fees, insurance, and taxes. Those three things will reduce your outflow dramatically. So focus on that. But you also have to focus on increasing your income. How do you increase income? Well, there's 5 basic ways you can increase income. One is through some type of investing in real estate, either buying real estate with no money down, learning how to buy real estate through tax sales or foreclosures, buying real estate and renting it out and developing a real estate business. You can do real estate part-time. You can keep your job, do it part-time. You can use other people's money. You can use corporations to get credit lines. You don't need any cash to start. And you can start building tremendous wealth with real estate. So investing in real estate is very valuable. Next, eBay. Without any cash, without any money, you can start making a fortune by using eBay and start selling things on eBay. And there are a couple good courses out there which teach you how to sell on eBay. Take advantage of that. You can do that without ever leaving your house. All you need is a computer. Next is investing in the stock market. Investing in equities or stocks. That's a good way to start developing wealth. Most successful people invest in stocks. The challenges at the highest levels, one of the billionaires said, at the highest levels of stock investing, it's all insider trading because the point is the average guy buying and selling stocks, you don't have the advantages that the super wealthy have, but it is advantageous to have some part of your income in the stock market and investing in stocks. The last one, there's 2 more, is trading in stocks. And that's different than investing in stocks. Trading in stocks means you may buy a stock or a commodity or something this morning and sell it this afternoon, or buy it today and sell it in 2 or 3 days. Investing in stocks, usually hold on to it for months, if not years at a time. But trading in stocks is something you can also do part-time, and there are some great courses on how to trade stocks. You don't need a lot of money to get started, but I'm telling you, some of them are very, very good, and you should take advantage of that. And there's another way that you can start developing income without quitting your job, and that is through some type of multi-level marketing or network marketing company. There are a lot of great network marketing opportunities out there. In America today, network marketing is probably not the best opportunity like it was back in the 70s. In the 70s, it was a spectacular and fantastic. And even in the early 80s, when Herbalife started and so forth, it was a fantastic way to generate huge amounts of revenue without a lot of money. Today, it's much more difficult in America to make money in network marketing opportunities. You don't make it as fast generally, and it's not as stable as it used to be because there's so much competition. But you do have to increase your income. That's the key. These secrets, these principles that I shared with you, work if you work them. They are common denominators of the most successful people in the world. There are some techniques, some specific techniques that you should do and apply. Most importantly, there are thought processes that you have to start changing. I would suggest you listen to this recording over and over and over again. Do the basic things here. If you start reading the books that I mentioned, your life will change because the information in those books give life-changing information. I recommend you read these books over and over and over again. And you can be reading 2 or 3 books at the same time like I do. And I've read those books that I gave you. I reread them, I reread them, I reread them, I reread them because it really is the basic, most important foundation. It's exciting to start developing wealth when you're incredibly happy. These particular secrets that I shared with you give you the information that you can use and need to start developing wealth in your life. Getting out of debt, paying off all your bills. Start having a nest egg and start having assets and start having money that you can look at. And when you go to sleep, knowing that you have no bills, no credit card debt, no debt, and that you have cash sitting in the bank, I can tell you this. When you go to sleep knowing that you owe nobody nothing, and you got a couple $100,000 sitting in the bank, you will sleep better than you ever slept in your life, or you won't sleep at all because you'll be so excited and happy, it's going to blow your mind. And I want to tell you that no matter what your situation is right now, no matter how bad off you are, I don't care if you have no education, no money, if you're bankrupt, if your credit's horrible, if you can't pay your bills, if you lost your job, if you're maxed out and bill collectors are hounding you, I don't care how bad it is. I'm here to tell you that that situation that you have right now can radically change in a very short period of time if you apply these principles. If you apply these principles, as Napoleon Hill said, money will come so fast and in such large quantities, it will frighten you. Do this, and your life will change. This is Kevin Trudeau, wishing you well, and I'm very honored, privileged, and humbled to be able to share this information with you. This was the secret, and he said, have a definitive purpose, a clearly defined dream, and have a burning desire for its achievement. A magnificent obsession, an obsession, a burning desire for its achievement. And when